to the Pit Stop. I'm your host E, aka our Moneybags, and we got the Pit Crew with us today, man. What's up, K Ego? What's up, bro?
KE Goat, what's good? What it do, man? Here for
Refuse to
another week, man. Another
refuse to
show.
refuse to call you by that name, by the way. Straight K Ego, yeah.
What's good, man?
Hey yo, then we got my man Rose McCray, man. Hey, tell him what we doing on the show, bro.
Man, that's where we shoot the shit, talk about everything except politics, my guy.
Yes,
Hey,
sir. And today we got a very, very special guest. Yo, where I start with this guy, man? He's been a radio personality in San Diego and in LA. Yo, he's been a writer, is a writer. He's wrote for Double XL, Right On Magazine. What you know about Right On? That's an old school joint. That's an OG joint right there. And he was the original contributors for The Source. We can get into that. And, ladies and gentlemen, Bronx Rays, Mr. Craig Fraizer. Welcome to the show, brother.
welcome to the show, man.
Going on?
And might I add, one of the OGs that seen hip hop from his birth, man.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
seen
man.
hip hop from the birth, from
Lot
the diapers.
yeah, a lot of richness in history of hip hop, man. And we really a hip hop based podcast, so glad to have you, man.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Nice to chop it up with you guys. It's my first podcast ever. I usually
okay.
behind the mic, and then there's a big disconnect because when I left the game, it wasn't really social media jumping off. It was emails and things of that nature, but it was a long time ago, and so I'm just humbled to be here with you guys. And chop it up and let you know how it was back in the day.
Yo, man, now your history runs deep, man.
Uh-huh.
Dude, one thing I noticed about your one of your credits, man, is you work with the music supervisor on Poetic Justice and Higher Learning.
Right.
Yo,
Right.
how's that experience, yo? Because those
That's
iconic
crazy.
movies,
Yeah.
yo.
So I lived in San Diego. I went to school in San Diego, and then I started a college radio show in San Diego. And so I used to take the mail code from my college, and I used to mail out on my playlist. And eventually, I became an A-list DJ, original source reporter, right? And then became a liaison for a lot of the labels when they had artists come out, Showbiz, AG, Intelligent Hoodlum, other artists. And so what happened is that I had did a show in San Diego when I was working with the student government. And I did a show with Tila Rock, Greg Nice was the beatbox, Meloman Ace, and Tone Loc. And so I did that show. Meloman Ace had two people dancing with him, his brother Sindog and Be Real. So they
I don't know who that is. That's Cypress Hill, by the way.
Cypress Hill.
So we did that show, and then I continued to do college radio, and then rap started moving forward, right? Because I started in the late 80s, and I started doing groups, and I mean, it's like True Mathematics, Donald D when he was with the B-Boys. There was a girl named Philly, act real silly. Back there, True Mathematics, Schoolie D, Too Short, songs like that in San Diego where they wasn't ready for hip hop. Nobody wanted me to play hip hop. But I did the show. It was a cool turnout. And what happened was Delicious Vinyl wanted me to do street promotions. So I started doing street promotions because before that was the only way to get hip hop promoted was street promotions. So I did street promotions, and then my connection was a guy named DJ P, and DJ P left Delicious, and he said, look, I'm getting ready to work with John Singleton. John Singleton has a label. Would you like to come up? At that time, I left.
So, don't mean to cut you off, Craig. John Singleton had a music label?
Yeah, John Singleton had a music label called New Deal Music. All of his movies came out on his label.
Oh, that was smart.
So every movie that he directed and was part of New Deal Music, he did the soundtrack.
I never knew he had a radio company. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So Poetic Justice, Higher Learning, all these show hustle, all those projects, he had control over the music. So I started doing commercial radio, and the commercial radio station in San Diego. I was like the first hip hop. At first, I was a jock, on air personality, and then I did hip hop, and then they changed the format of the radio station to alternative. So at that point, it was like same time, timing was right when John was starting the label, and DJ P remembered me from doing street promotion and being on the end. He was like, "Look, come help me at John Singleton's." So I moved to LA and started working up there.
Wow, yo. Wow. So and what's crazy is, yo, if you think about those soundtracks, all those soundtracks were dope as hell.
Super dope.
Yo, he had some.
Makes sense.
Back then, your soundtrack had to be knocking though.
Yeah,
you couldn't handle being soundtrack, yo.
Boys in the Hood, High Learning.
What was more exciting was the politics behind the music. You had John and his label, you had Sony Music, and you had a tussle about who was going to be on the soundtrack. Yeah. Who was hot at that time, who wasn't hot at that time. And John was had two artists that he could sign. So he signed Mr. Grimm, right? Okay. And he signed Cultural Revolution. He signed another group too, and then he wanted to. I'll talk about this later, but there was someone else he wanted to sign too, but he didn't have the budget. But Mr. Grimm had a song called Endo Smoke, and Warren G did the music, and Nate Dogg sang the hook. So we were dealing with Warren at the same time, and at that time, DJP was managing the Far Side, Brown, you know, and he had just come off of helping or being integral, signing the House of Pain, and then of course at that time the '90s were blowing up with Cypress Hill, Greg Nice, the Fugees, and at a particular time, there was another group that was trying to blow it too. I'll get to that later too. I'm gonna tell you down the line. There would always be in John Singleton, and then another guy that would always come to the office too that would later have a big hit. He would later sign to Def Jam West and have a big hit called "This Is How We Do It," right?
Wow, Montel George.
Montel, that's right.
Yeah,
so we were there all the time, and it was just pure fun because that was like the biggest period for hip hop, the '90s. As a matter of fact, it was the biggest hit for biggest time and era for black music in general.
Right.
Do you think that's when it started to go commercial?
I mean, I think that's when we had the widest variety of different types of music in the genre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, we had the conscious rap, we had the bubblegum rap, we had the satire with Humpty, Digital Underground. You know, we had all these groups. We had even Biz. Biz, you know, Kane wrote for Biz a lot, but you know, even the type of music. It was a fun time for hip hop. Yeah. It was a serious time for hip hop. It was a social, political time for hip hop. Right. And, yeah. Go ahead.
This is something I wanted to know too. Like you express on the '90s hip hop. Like to me, that's the golden era. And for you to be a part of that, you to be a part of that hip hop fraternity in the '90s.
Right.
There was an issue between two rappers, and it was really a small issue, but it blew up. You know, the whole Big and Pac thing. You being from the Bronx and you venturing out to the West Coast, San Diego, and being part of some of the hip hop media out there, how was the landscape or like the temperature during that time? You know, because it was such a small situation, a misunderstanding, but you know, controversy sells, and
it's hard for me to calculate all of that because I got to tell you from my lens.
Tell us from your lens, Dan. Like that's what I want to know. What did you see? Like that was a good question, Kenny. How did you see it, and what did you see it in that time? Being you was part of it, not a part of it, but being in it.
I knew. Okay, so let's start off by saying like as a DJ, as a writer, right? You know, as a journalist, there's two sides of the story. And it's hard for me to make an opinion on that time without having both parties privy and talking about it. So we will take my opinion. And I had a small relationship with both artists through the people that they work with. Let's put it that way. So I had not a relationship, but I knew Pop. I interacted with him through other artists, and through being that I was on the radio, he came, he did IDs for me. As a writer and a college radio DJ, I went to shows in San Diego. And the same thing when I moved to LA, I was at Grand Slam with Black Watch Television. Now, Black Watch Television is like comparative to Video Music Box in New York. They were underground, they were on the public access channel, and they were the best thing coming before Pump It Up. So they did all the footage, or later on they would do all the footage for Death Row. So most of the footage that you see early about Pac and Biggie at Grand Slam, they shot it. I was with them at that date, that time. So there was no beef at that time. Yeah. Everything got pulled together in like different periods about different things, and it didn't really, I feel it didn't really escalate until the Source Awards. And I don't know where that came from, because there was nothing percolating, for lack of a better word, on the landscape, the music landscape, because everybody was getting deals. Snoop had a deal, Warren G had his own deal, and you hear things about the intricacies and things that were going on with the label, and how Warren felt and Snoop felt, and how people felt about Death Row. But I'm not getting into it. We're talking about the East Coast, West Coast thing. But everything started to exacerbate from the Quad Studios thing. Yeah. And I was in New York. And that happened a little later. And then we had Death Row. Then we had him coming out of prison. And then we had the fight. So in between those gaps, we really don't know what happened. And that's something I don't really touch on, because I was a fan of Biggie and Pop. You know what I'm saying? You know, I was with did the real niggas do real things on the Ready to Die promo with Fat Man Scoop. So
rest in peace, Fat Man Scoop.
What happened?
I said, now rest in peace, Fat Man Scoop.
Yeah. Shout out to Fat Man Scoop, who went to Hayes. I went to All Hallows. We were arch rivals. He's younger than me. And then I dealt with him when he was director of promotions at Tommy Boy. He took over for Albie Ragusa. So I knew Fat Man Scoop before he started making records. Shout out to Fat Man. Wow. Yeah.
So let me ask this. Let's take it back to the beginning. Like I said, you was with the birth of hip hop. Of course, they say hip hop originated in the South Bronx. Where you from? Well, Bronx. Let me say the Bronx. I don't know if you're from actually the South Bronx.
You good?
Yeah, but the Bronx. And on the flip side of that, when did you fall in love with hip hop? What's the first song you heard that you know what? And what made you say, you know what? This is what I'm about to do for the rest of my life. This is it. I found my calling. Like, how did you fall into this?
Great question. So I'm a little younger, not much younger. I'm an old head, but I was when hip hop came, and we talk about its infancy. You know, I was a kid, and I couldn't leave the block, right? So I lived around the corner from Cedar Park in the Bronx, which the part that I lived in was Morrisina, but all those sections are close. Morrisina, High Bridge, South Bronx, Mott Haven, going towards East Tremont. You could walk there. When you're young, you either riding your bike or you walking. So everything was close in the Bronx. Even further up, like Wakefield, Botanical Gardens, Bronx Zoo. It's all close to us. If we're not on the bike or walking, we hop in the train, basically, right? So I lived around the corner from Cedar Park, and my babysitter had a boyfriend that was a tagger. His name was El Marco. He also was a DJ named DJ Wiz, and he had Vegas, because back in the day, Sherman Vegas with the speakers they had, and he would lend her his speakers. So that means he was at the park with his girlfriend, who was my babysitter. So I used to sneak to the park, and then
those speakers was crazy.
Cool Herc, Herculoids, right? Clark Kent. And
shit!
Wow.
Small. Not the Clark Kent that we know. There was another Clark Kent before the Clark Kent that we know now today. So then we had smaller sects in the park we used to hang out with, and that's where like Grandmaster Caz, Charlie Chase, Theodore, and then we had locals that you really don't hear about, like DJ Whitehead, Blackjack, and then in Highbridge, I went to grammar school in Highbridge, so then you had Playboy and JC, and then the word spread around, and then there were people, and then of course Kid Capri was from the area, right? So then hip hop started blowing up, and then I met a guy that I worked with, my first summer job that I worked with in the park, and he used to break dance, and so we were in the park cleaning the park until we decided like, oh, we gotta do something better than this. So like the light bulbs popped up, and we was like, we're gonna go around and we're gonna get our own group. So we went around, we got the consent forms, had the parents sign, and we had like I don't know if we want to disrespect them by saying it was a motley crew. But the next thing you know, we were straight ghetto though. I'm not gonna front. We didn't put them at risk for harm or anything, but we were on the train. They were break dancing. We were asking for change. We were down in Central Park and stuff like that. And then a couple of years later, I was really into sports, and I used to see this gentleman walking around, break dancing at the parties, at the parks with the music going on. And then one time I bumped into his brother getting off the train, and his brother said, "Listen, you gotta hear me, Craig. I'm on this record. It's on the other side of Spoonie G. It's called Love Rap." And I was like, "Yeah, word." About a couple of months later, here come the Treacherous 3.
Oh, snap.
and the guy that I worked with was Tila Rock. You know what I'm saying? So those were my childhood friends. That was the surroundings that I grew up in. And I was like, oh, this hip hop. I want to play ball. I want to go to school. You know what I'm saying? And next thing I know, at my graduation party, here's Caz, Theodore, Charlie Chase rocking my high school, party.
Wow.
And I'm still not, I don't know, to the point where next thing you know, I have a Gemini, and Tila Rock and I are going down to the underground because there weren't many places to get break beats. But the underground in New York on 42nd Street, they sold break beats for like $20, $25 because it was rare at the time. And then then it started blowing up. And I never forget, I left San Diego.
Let me stop real quick.
Go ahead.
Hold on. So they used to sell break beats?
Yeah, you used to sell break beats before they started making albums with break beats.
Yeah.
Dexter Wanzel, Billy Joel, all that stuff you used to cut. Yeah. I want to rock the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Funky Drummer. Yeah. They would get those vinyls and they would sell them for like $20, $25. And back in the 70s and 80s, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they didn't have no sampling or
so you had to know the record though.
So
you had to know the record.
Yeah, you had to know the record. But I mean, it just spread. It was like social media or street promotions with the DJs. You know how you would get let's dance. It must be.
Yeah. That's a soul surgeon too.
Go around. Then it used to be the hustle, and they used to have those songs like shout, let it all out. That's before your time, huh?
Yeah.
And then they had Trance, Europe, Express. You know what I'm saying? They had all these songs, and it would just be. And then back in those days when we grew up, songs were like 15 minutes long.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
Shalimar and all those guys started coming up like ain't no stopping us.
Stopping us.
That would be like
Yeah.
20 minutes long. You could grab a girl and dance for like a half an hour and then y'all want to sit down.
Hey yo,
You
fun
know?
fact, that's my pop's graduation, is class graduation song. Ain't no stopping us.
That's right. That's right. So now you dating me now. Now you making me old. So, you know, moving from there, and then I moved to Spanish Harlem. That's why I wish Chill was here right now, because this is where I was gonna start getting them in Spanish Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Because when I moved to Spanish Harlem, it was really starting to blossom.
How old was you when you got to Spanish Harlem?
Huh?
How old was you? How old was you when you got to Spanish Harlem?
Spanish Harlem, I was a teenager. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So
So
you about
I was a
right
teenager.
now.
When you know, I was young in the Bronx. Then as a teenager, I moved to Spanish Harlem.
So you outside. You outside in Spanish Harlem.
Yeah, and then hip hop started to move on the underground in the clubs and the DJs, and it started mixtapes, pause tapes. You know what I'm saying? And you started seeing those old school flyers, T Connection, Funky 4+1, Fearless 5. You know what I'm saying? All those Grandmaster Flash. A little bit before those. Well, those songs were coming out. And I was around when I moved to Spanish Harlem. I was, I guess, Crash Crew, Fearless 4 had records, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Hey, was Andre Harrell with them?
Yeah, Andre Harrell and Alonzo Brown. So you know Alonzo Brown is the producer for Judge Mathis, right? That's his show. Yeah. So we hung out, and they had a DJ, Louis Lou. I don't know. Y'all had S&S and Ron G and DJ Clue and DJ Drama and Buttons and all those guys. But before K-Slay. So I lived on 101st. East River was right across the street from me, and East River is infamous for Alpo, right?
Okay.
And then next to that was Wilson, and there was a DJ named Dollar Bill, DJ named across the street Frankie Cutlass. Frankie Cutlass, I'm gonna take y'all way back and give you some real history. Frankie Cutlass was like one of the first people that Fat Joe was down with.
Oh, okay.
Frankie's from Spanish Harlem, right? And then you had Dollar Bill, then you had DJ Spivey, then you had Ronnie Green. And then, of course, Red Alert.
Red Alert.
So those are the top DJs. And we had our little crew, because at that time I was hanging out with Tila Rock buying records. And then Dollar Bill was on the east side. And there was another young kid that used to come carry the records. Like you always used to hear that Flex carried Chuck's records, right?
Right.
So then there was another kid that carried records, and his name was KG. And he later turned into K-Slay. So we were there, but hip hop was still in its infancy. People had records and things of that nature. Busy Bee, and then of course Kumo D, and you had those big battles that you guys see on YouTube. Back in the day. And but that's how we socialized. You know what I'm saying? It was a little bit before the crack era. You know what I'm saying? So the narrative didn't change then. It was still about having fun, you know, doing music and battles and beats without guns.
With the excitement of hip hop, like this when it was fun before the violence and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Who was some of the, like being a DJ? Who was some of the DJs that were a magnet to y'all as far as like that y'all wanted to work with or whatever? Like you mentioned Kumo D and his battles. You know, Kumo D was, I think, one of the most underrated battle rappers.
Yeah, I mean those are legendary. Those are Kumo D, Shin. Hip hop, that's entrenched. Those are indelible marks of hip hop because it helped fuel hip hop in general. You know what I'm saying? Because look at Kendrick and Drake. Like 50 years later,
battling. It's in the cloth. It's in the cloth of hip hop. It's competitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Beats are still hot.
It is.
And as a matter of fact, on bringing it back, there hasn't been beef like that. And now this reminds me of if Kendrick would have took a album cover and had Drake's hat under his Jeep like Kool Moe Dee had.
Oh, Kool Moe Dee.
Yeah,
Kool Moe Dee.
LL Cool J.
Yeah. I mean, Jay-Z and Nas.
Jay-Z and Nas.
I mean, that was a subtle. That wasn't just all out. Come on, let's get busy. But yes, that is a good point. Jay-Z and Nas.
Yeah, the Jay-Z. Hey, the Jay-Z and Nas joint was getting flagrant too. I ain't gonna lie, it was getting flagrant.
Yeah, it was. It definitely.
But you know what's crazy?
Beef, but we call it competition.
It's competition. Yeah. That's hip hop.
Like healthy competition. Healthy.
Competition. You got the Lakers and the Celtics. Yankees and Boston.
Exactly.
Hip hop is the same, and it gets distorted with the violence and the negativity. We can have some fun competition.
Absolutely.
We can scrap a little bit.
Talking New York.
We can stiff arm a little bit. Right. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, just like how 50 got hot. He came out with
How to Rob.
How to Rob, So that's hip hop. You know what I mean?
But before, let me ask you a question real quick. Because you New York bred. You know, to the heart, I hear it in the voice and everything. And shout out to Moneybagg for wearing his New York Mets hat too.
Yeah.
But I want to ask,
fan, yo,
because now that it's came out, the Biggie song. I want to say the one is it? I got correct me if I'm wrong. I got a story to tell. Craig, what?
I kind of stay away from that because that's a journalist in me, and I can't really talk to Biggie right now. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta stay safe with that. But I'm telling you right now, Biggie was one of my favorite artists. Like you could sit down and close your eyes, and you could paint a picture of his narrative.
Yes.
The way he rhymed, it was so descriptive. You're like, oh my God. It's kind of like Kool G Rap. Like, Kool G Rap, when he rhymes, you like this. You got your eyes closed. You like this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, look, I tell people all the time. I tell people all the time about Biggie. Yo, one of my favorite Biggie songs is Bleed Like Us. Yo, you can write a movie on Arizona Ron for Tucson, yo, with the Black Yukon, yo.
With the Black Yukon.
Arizona
Ron Tucson and the Black Yukon. Yeah.
Hey, look, what he say, yo? Used to rock the slow jams, yo. Come on, man. Dog.
Yeah, man.
Biggie was special. And then it's so funny because in Spanish Harlem, brothers, I don't want to use the other word, brothers love pop. They love pop.
Wow.
That girl pop was big. And I was like, I like pop. It's all good, but I like I get around.
Digital Underground.
You know what I'm saying? So I like some of those joints. And then I like some of his commercial stuff better than the stuff, that other people liked. Like people like Hail Mary, la, da, la,
yeah, Machiavelli out
here. So Pac was dope, and he's somebody going like one of the artists that wasn't my favorite artist that is my favorite artist now is Jay-Z. I'm an old head. So when that whole generation came in of rapping phonetically, the words sound the same. It was hard for me to buzz.
I get it. It's kind of like the Jordan LeBron type of debate there. You know what I'm saying? Like we grew up watching Jordan. These kids today grew up watching LeBron. So it's like you like your first impression. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing's gonna beat your first impression.
Right.
And so before we jump over to the West Coast again, how did you feel?
Okay.
Like, so you New York, like I said, to the core. how you feel about Nas, because Nas is my favorite artist of all time.
I like Nas. I like Nas. I got Nas on the Fake from the Lip.
Oh, shit.
So
Hey, yo, is that Apache?
Yeah, that's Apache.
Yeah, Apache.
Yeah. You guys never saw this. So this is, where's the year? This is
1993.
February 1993, and it's $1.
$1. So this is my magazine that I started, and this is Nas, Curious George, and Apache. So and then we did a show at the Gavin. Like every year, you have these conventions. I guess I don't know.
And by the way, you got Nasty Nas. But you got Nasty.
That's Nasty Nas.
Nasty Nas.
So every year there were conventions that you would go to, like Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But they were more music oriented. And it was at the Gavin. And I had Nas perform, Akinelli, Dougie Fresh. Who else was there? The Brat was there. RZA was there before Wu. Oh, wait. I got the... Nobody noticed the first Wu cover.
Oh, shit. Yo, they look young as hell.
Hopefully somebody will be like, hey, give me $1 million. No, they won't do that. But there were a lot of fanzines from that era. You know,
yo, that's crazy. I remember that picture.
Yeah, that was their promo picture. And then there's another one. Get you. Oh, this is another magazine I wrote for. Props. Okay. In Vancouver.
Fab Five. Okay.
Yeah, with your man Sean Price.
Yeah.
Yo, I forgot about that. Man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm old. Guys. I'm old.
So, you're a vet.
You're a vet. You're a vet.
Hey, like you said, vet. I should have got a vet.
Where we at? Where were we? Because we were talking about Nas.
Yeah, so I said how you put, because I didn't want to jump to the West Coast before. You know, I want to touch on your New York side,
East Coast,
because like I said, your East Coast side is what started hip hop, and so before we jump to the West Coast, and we got into how you kind of started your radio station and how you did some things over that side of town. Just want to talk to you about your East Coast and how you was able to absorb all that, because at the end of the day, you came up with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm a B-boy. I'm a B-boy. I'm a hip hop fan. I don't really focus on any accolades, because there wasn't many accolades. I was exposed to a lot of opportunities to blow, but I didn't. But at the end of the day, I'm still loving hip hop. I got a little disconnect, and like you said, you were gonna ask me about the artists I like, so I spent the last week looking at some things and finding out who's on the playlist. But when I went to LA, oh man, it was great. They had K-Day. We didn't even have a commercial radio station in New York yet.
Okay.
But they did in LA, K-Day. And they had this song, this artist named Toddy T. You guys ever heard of him?
I have.
He had this record called The Batarang. You can't stop it. The Batarang. So that spoke to the whole social political atmosphere in LA at the time, because at that time it was like snowfall when I moved there.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, they had Bloods and Crips, and everybody was, scrambling.
Right.
And the cops were going through the buildings and the houses with a big truck, like back in the Prohibition era when they did Elliot Ness. It was like that. So Toddy T came out with, and then of course it was like Egyptian Lover, like the World Class Wrecking Crew, who started with them. You know that?
Dr. Dre, right?
Yeah. Right.
Dr. Dre.
So that was the type of flavor, and it was Uncle Jam Army. They were big promoters. So I used to hang out. I mean, I was so LA. Before the Shell Toes came, I was wearing Fila. And then of course, Run came, and it took over.
Yeah, everybody's gonna use out of that.
Oh wait, then they had JJ Fad, Supersonic. Remember Supersonic?
Yeah, Supersonic.
Yeah. Remember? So then that's when hip hop really started catching momentum at the end of the '80s.
They did, especially the West Coast.
Beastie Boys, right? Houdini,
Right,
LL, Tila Rock.
Yeah.
So since you was on both coasts, when did the shift happen for the West Coast? Because we all know it started on the East Coast, started in the Bronx, started in New York. When did the shift happen? I mean, we talking gangster rap, but when did that shift happen? When you say, damn, here come the West Coast. I'm just saying, when did? But it was different for him because he was in the trenches.
It was different for who?
You, because of course, Kid K Ego gonna say, yeah, he knows, but like you was in it when it changed over to like the West Coast kind of.
But I'm curious to hear what K Ego would have to say first before I say anything. How you feel about it?
Now I feel like
as somebody in a different generation looking back on hip hop history.
I feel like when hip hop took its shift is when hip hop started experiencing reality rap from NWA. Nobody never heard those lyrics and what they talked about. They actually talked about what happened in their environment. I just think people took an interest in that, and that was something different. For something to catapult and take off and to be to stand out, you got to do something that haven't been done before. And I think what Cube and MC Ren and Eazy-E and Dr. Dre and them did, they did something that never been done in hip hop. And I just think that's when it shifted. And I think a lot of the lyrics from East Coast artists shifted to that as well because they saw that it worked and they had a story to tell on their coast. So I just think
I like that idea, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that the shift for the East Coast artists came when that Dirty South stuff started coming, right? But I feel like you're right on point because I think that the East Coast influenced the West Coast, but it was a different dynamic on the West Coast. You know, and it's funny. Let me point this out to you. When I first went to LA, they were wearing curlers in their hair.
Yeah.
Right? They were wearing slippers. They had on Dickies and sagging. When I came back to New York in the 90s, what was going on? They were sagging. There was Bloods and Crips. And so I think it's like a social learning theory. And I think hip hop made it more, it expanded the reach for what was going on for adolescents and young adults who liked or lived or who were indigenous in the environment. If you were trapping, then you were on some gangster stuff. If you were going to school, then you were on some social, political, Afrocentric stuff, right? If you were a female, you like this artist, you like Latifah, you like that. And then it started getting more political with the labels. And that's a whole nother discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked that, because I remember, watching Colors. And I just watched it again, and I remember Ice-T song, Colors.
Right.
Colors. And that's what I'm saying. And that's when they was talking about Bloods and the Crips. So that's what I'm saying. But you was out there during that time. That's why I was asking you, when did you feel that shift? Or even watching Boys in the Hood, watching Menace to Society, those, you know what I mean? When we start looking at hip-hop,
that's hip hop too, though, you know?
Right, but I'm just saying, but of course you had Juice and that from the East Coast, but then you had Menace to Society.
That came later.
Boys in the Hood.
That came later. But
so when you got to the West Coast and you heard that music, how did it make you feel being an East Coast resident? Like, how did you like?
I had tunnel vision. Of course, I had tunnel vision. I'm from New York. Street lights, Herc, Red Alert. I had tunnel vision, and that was one of my biggest obstacles. You know what I'm saying, that I had when I started doing music and the magazine and things of that nature, not being able to think outside the box.
Yeah, you got to be plugged in.
I had that attitude down from New York. Yeah. You know, but at the same time, I saw what was going on, and I liked what was going on, and I interacted with people because it was a whole new culture being born. You know, in San Diego, not only when I moved to San Diego, that's predominantly white, it was on the beach. My school was predominantly white, but all the people of color came from different urban areas. Vallejo, Kansas City,
Holly
Riverside,
JoJo.
LA.
Holly JoJo.
So I became eclectic. You know what I'm saying? Like I took from everybody's swag,
right?
but I still, had my Adidas and everything of that nature.
Right.
And that bonded us because even though we were from different areas, we still had that social tie.
Commonality,
Social ties, commonality, that common denominator.
Yeah.
And so that made me. It made me curious because I go to LA and my man would be like, I'm on 81st and Broadway and Hoover's around the corner, and he would tell me don't wear no blue. And I'd be like, what? Or my man would take me to Riverside and everybody's wearing curlers and straight hair. And then I'm playing ball because I always took the ball with me. And then the guy comes on the court with a gun and a holster. And I'm like, oh. It was such a culture, not a culture shock. Like, this is really going on here with the Daytons and the lowriders. And then one of my best friends was Chicano and Chicano Park in San Diego. And those are all characteristics and elements of the music. Remember, you had Kid Frost, this is for La Raza. Then you had Cypress Hill that really started going towards hip hop, but then they went towards rock, and then they went towards alternative, and that encompasses the influence of this genre. So to answer your question and to go back to you, early on, I was just straight New York, but as it evolved, I liked the Outkast and Ludacris. You know what I'm saying?
And
so I was like, oh shoot, you're not New York, but it's going somewhere else, and I like it.
Yeah, Outkast was the one for me. I think that might have been my introduction to like the South. Was Outkast for me.
The South
before that was Ghetto Boys, but the part where I think it shifted was Outkast because we was listening to Outkast. I had to be
ATLians.
Mine was Southern Players of Cadillac Music, the first joint.
I mean, I listened to Southern Players of Cadillac Music, but it was that song. Damn.
Oh yeah. Yo, that was a criminal joint. We was in high school by then.
Yeah. But that
you know what? You know what? I always to this day.
I love Players Ball. That's me.
Yeah, Players Ball, my shit. But to this day, I always equate.
That was hot.
But I always equate criminal with Juvenile 40 Degrees. That joint came out like the same time. I remember going to Circuit City to get that joint. Yeah. And I had to make a choice between those two,
But you know my first two purchases was Nas, It Was Written, and AZ, Do or Die.
Yeah.
Damn.
Those were my first two purchases, and they was on cassette. Because Sugar Hill, it was something about that song, Sugar Hill. And I don't know why. I think I equated it with the movie because of Ray Nathan and his brother, you know what I'm saying, the movie. But like that song just was where I wanna be.
Nah, that's one of the ones.
It's for real. Sugar Hill is so lovely. But I just always like
AZ slid on that joint too.
Yeah, so. But not to take away from you, Craig, because I know you said
no. This is a collective feeling about hip hop history, man.
I ain't gonna lie.
I'm glad I'm able to inspire y'all and say, hey, this is me. This is what I feel. That's
so,
what it's
like. I mean, but like, I'm talking about.
Don't keep making me feel old.
I'm gonna tell you though.
You said that when I bought my first car in college, I lied to you not. That AZ song you just played. I drove around DC. I put all the windows down and drove around DC with that joint playing. Like, man, that's a remembrance of that song.
But so for me, I got a lot of West Coast to a certain extent because my sister's father was from California, so I was in Vallejo or Valley JoJo, as the black people call it, Valley Joe. And like when I was younger, so it was like when Players Club kind of came out. Shouldn't probably been watching Players Club at the time, but Players Club. So it was Ice Cube. We be clubbing. It was, and then my mom's boyfriend at the time. I never get out of elementary school, and I never forget the Eazy-E song. I remember this line so fast. It was woke up quick. At about noon, just thought that I had to be in Compton soon. I never will forget that line. And then he was like, because the boys in the hood are always hard. And then I was going to school, and like I shouldn't have been listening to it, but it's the world's biggest. It don't matter, just don't buy. Like I was listening to that. Like going to school, going to elementary school, listening to it, and I remember because he was like, I threw it right across and knocked his old ass out. I remember that vividly because he had a Toyota Celica, and he was rocking that joint, man. Thing. So
what you know about that old Celica, boy?
Yeah, so when I'm listening to West Coast music, I remember like we be clubbing. I remember I remember the boys because he was an Eazy-E fan, like what I'm saying. I remember a lot of that West Coast stuff and living in Vallejo and the Bay
DJ Quinn,
E40, Sprinkle Me, man. Like I remember that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying when
you young enough and old enough to remember Domino. Here we go.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you who I remember.
West Coast was hot. That's when West Coast was hot.
I'm gonna tell you who I used to like.
WC, Aladdin.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you who I used to like rapping Forte.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. West Coast, and it wasn't hard for East Coast rappers to convert because you had your generation and you wanted to hear everything.
Right.
Yeah. That helped the transition for people just saying, nah, it ain't just about the East Coast anymore.
Right.
It's about who's hot right now.
I think it's
like that to this day.
I think it's happening now, though. Do you think it's happening now? Because the South, I would say the South reigned from probably 98 when P first came. I mean, I'm talking for my generation, like when it just took off, and they went all the way until the mid 2000s, tens and stuff like that. But I think now, and people, I haven't seen no podcast media talk about it, but I think the West Coast now has been really active putting out. Their artists been putting out songs consistently. You got Larry June, Kendrick, the Nipseys. You got even the DJs. What's Mustard.
Mustard on that beat, ho.
Hit Boy.
Yeah, Hit Boy put on his father. You know what I'm saying? Like his father and gang.
You also got YG. You got
YG is a veteran now. He's a veteran.
Yeah, but it's like
YGs.
I see like this generation of the West Coast is kind of repeating what they did back in the late 80s and 90s now, man. Like
let me ask you a question. You think Nipsey would have been king by now if he wouldn't have died?
Oh,
Nipsey had my ear years before he passed. Right. He didn't have the massive ears until after he passed, but So
Nipsey was like E40 before E40 blew up. Everybody knew about him on the street.
Yeah.
So
that part. Yeah.
So one person I want to ask you about because you was West Coast, Mac Dre.
Oh, West of Peace, Mac Dre. Yeah.
Mac Dre. Oh, do I have a lot of memories of Mac Dre? Not really.
Okay.
Not really, but I know about him.
Mm-hmm.
I know a little bit more about Mac 10 than Mac Dre, but Mac Dre was from Northern California.
He was from the Bay.
He's from the Bay. He's from the Bay. Yeah.
Right. So, and I know more about Drew Down because I wrote about him in the Source. So, Mac Dre was just as hot underground.
He was from Mac Dre was from Vallejo.
Vallejo.
Yeah.
Right.
So how was it seeing the beginning of the Source, man? That had to be you now looking back at it, that had to be a mind trip.
So I'm an original Source reporter.
Yeah.
You know, I'm original Source reporter. as a DJ.
Right.
And the Source. At first, it was the CMJ. Then it was Black Radio Exclusive. Then it was the Gavin, and then the Source came, and then it just started blowing up. Vibe came out around the same time as the Source, but then
Yeah, Rap came out a little bit later.
Rap Pages and Rap Sheet, and then you had Right On, you know, Ebony and Jet and stuff like that. But Source came in, and then Vibe came, and then Vibe chilled for a minute. I think they were restructuring, and then the Source came, and then they blew up.
Yeah.
Right, and then I started straight from the lip. Then it was the Flavor magazine. 20.
What about Double XL?
Double XL came after the Source.
It came later, yeah.
It came after the Source, and then Elliot Wilson had Ego Trip. So there was a whole bunch of regional magazines at that time.
Got you.
Like every state and city had like regional magazines.
Gotcha.
And then the Source kind of blew up, and then Double XL blew up, and then Elliot went to Double XL, and then it was Dave Mays and John Schechter, right? And then they called me and knew that I was on the West Coast, because I had met Dave Mays at Comic-Con, because it started in San Diego. So he came to San Diego. I was in San Diego, and we also had an event, because when I started the magazine, we kind of partnered with all of the clothing companies. Like before Car Canal, before Cross Colors, there was
I remember both of them.
Fresh Jive. There was Stussy, right?
Yeah, I know
Stussy still kicking to this day.
Yeah, still Stussy doing the thing.
Thieves. There was what's the one that you would know now, because there was Con Art. You had a whole Biggie used to wear Con Art. That was a clothing company. So we had all these clothing companies that would partner with the magazine, and so that they would have a what would you call it, a convention where all the clothing companies come. We had Kickwear, Fresh Job, A-War Gear. We had Greed.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Those are all like we had. Oh, you guys don't. I don't know if you remember this one. Wait. Let me. PNB, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So we had all these different clothing lines, and then next thing you know, we got. We had another one. They were called Junkies.
Okay.
So what's so I gotta send you guys a couple copies of
shit. Yeah. So
and then of course you remember this one.
Paris.
Okay.
555
So yeah.
555 so. Oh, you guys remember Paris?
Yeah, I remember Paris.
I seen Paris before.
Where's he from? Where's he from? From the Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember the artist, yo.
Yeah.
It's good that you mentioned that, because like you talk about
like pimp clothing.
Wow.
So these are all now you can understand where the idea came for people to start their own clothing lines.
Right. Look at all those clothing lines back in the day.
And then when artists used to come out, they used to get free clothes. So of course they thought,
hey, looking at the back of that, Naughty by Nature, Hip Hop Array.
Shout out to them. Yeah. It's funny that that you showed us all that, because like I wanted to ask you this question, and I don't want to be the old head to down today's music and stuff like that, but like I felt like a lot of artists today are just controlled by the labels, right? But I just think like back then when we had the media outlets like The Source, Vibe magazine, and all that, I think that was the culture. So you had to first be respected by them to be respected in the game. But I think now when the label just took over and they take it. It's become a money thing now. So like a lot of the music's become watered down. So like, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that I wrote for paper called the Amsterdam News. That's a black newspaper in New York. I wrote for them for 20 years. And I started in arts and entertainment, so I would go to plays, I would go to all of the seminars and stuff like that, because I was like the hip hop head when I came back in the 90s. And so I went to a seminar one time with James and Toomey. You guys ever heard of James and Toomey? He made a song called Biggie used one of his samples, Juicy.
Okay.
I remember.
I heard that. Yeah.
What was the lyrics from it? The paper bags. I remember back when I was
when I had the red and black.
Right, that was Juicy's sample. He made money off of that.
Right.
But James and Toomey was in the game since the 70s because he was in 70 different groups, and he said it was like just like hip hop. It was like when they had Gamble and Huff and Barry Gordy. Like the big labels didn't know how to market that, so they started giving them deals. So then they gave people deals, and then they would go to big labels, and then people like Tommy Mottola.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
The next thing you know, they started learning how to market, street promotions, A&R. Remember Gizza? Remember Gizza from the Wu-Tang?
Jizza.
Never been my boy. And when he made
right? That was the businessman. The businessman of it. Yeah.
So they learned, and then after 9/11, when the market kind of crashed, one person or one label emerged, right? And that was Universal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was big news. Then there was big news about what the brother or the father and the son is with Universal, and the other one's with Atlantic.
When that Granger was it Lucius?
Right. And if they merge together, then forget it. It's like YouTube, right?
Right.
Runs YouTube, right?
Right. Google.
Who runs YouTube?
Google now. Google.
I think Google do right now.
But who runs it? Leo Cohen.
He runs YouTube Music over there. Yeah.
You talking about the person? Okay, yeah.
Hey, you know what's crazy? I noticed the correlation when he got over there with YouTube and the music. You notice how music, like certain music, you can't play, or you can't close your TV. Can't close out your screen with it still playing.
I can't answer that because I'm not there.
Yeah,
and I can't speculate because I need both sides, like journalism.
Gotcha.
But we can have theories, right? Yeah. We can have ideas, but we never really know what's going on behind those closed doors. But we can, and I don't know. I take the stance where I'll always be a fan, but I think that I learn from my experiences. So if I ever get a podcast, I know to call you guys. You know what I'm saying? And then we go from there, and then I network, and I find more information, and I get better at it. And I think that's the most positive thing about hip hop and its artists. Some have been able to evolve and blow up, and some was able to blow up and not evolve, right? But I'm saying no names.
Oh yeah, you can't say a name. We know.
But it's not just that one person in particular. It's a whole group of people that you guys are not privy to because they're not on social media and they're not in the news. There are many people that are because when at the end of the day, it's about decision making, problem solving, and interpersonal skills. Gotcha. And those things, those three components that get distorted, F's the game up.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, as a journalist, Now before we get to the journalism, because
Right.
I don't know, I'm kind of like talking about. I know I'm talking about this West Coast thing heavy because, like I said, I feel like West Coast had a hell of a run in the late '80s, early '90s. You know, man, they kind of took hip hop by storm. So when you was on the radio, like when y'all got it out and y'all pushed it out, how did y'all push these new artists? How did you what did you do? How did you get the underground music? What did you have to do to kind of push new artists?
Well, as an A-list DJ, I got white labels. I got all the music first before anybody got it. So, in terms of West Coast,
first of all, talk your shit, man. Talk your shit, man. Like that's some bullshit right there.
At the same time, the '90s brought in different components of the music. You had the clothing companies. You had people moving towards sponsorships. You had video coming in. You had social media coming in. And so you had people trying to take advantage of all these different components of entrepreneurship and tying it into hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So the West Coast had you had the tribe. I can't say if it influenced Souls of Mischief, Delta, Funky Homo Sapiens, Casual, The Far Side. You had all these different hybrids of rap groups coming out from the West Coast during the '90s, which was like the glory times of hip hop.
Yeah.
So you had all these groups. You had Yo-Yo, right? You had then you had this new model of artists starting their own labels, right? So you had Cube with the Lynch Mob. Then you had Easy was one of the first ones to do the model. Then you see people trying to emulate all of those models.
Gotcha.
You had E40 was sick with it, remember?
Yeah.
Then it was a time forget the labels, get your own deal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the undertow was that they still contractually, we still didn't know how to break that bond. Right? So even though you had your own label, there was only one or two people really, really benefiting from that. Maybe the person that signed and the label that was giving you distribution deals. The artist still wasn't. There's another person that we know that had a big label deal and still had all their artists publishing and stuff like that because they learned from the labels that they work with.
Right?
And at the same time, the big major labels were, I think, in my opinion, were modifying themselves so that they could just have all of that.
Right.
Gotcha. Right. So you can work with them forever. So you had to be out of here.
The '90s, to answer your question, I mean, look like the Far Side. The Far Side were like, they were one of the hottest groups on the West Coast, and they didn't have any of those elements that Easy, Dre. Look at Snoop.
Right.
Snoop just blew out the box.
Yeah.
And then wait, what about Hammer?
Yeah.
Hammer. So they had the West Coast had different dimensions, just like the East Coast.
Oh, and then you forget. You had to go up to Washington too, man. Sir Mix-a-Lot. He was in Seattle.
Mix-a-Lot.
Shout out to B Mello, my man, and Nasty Ness, original source supporter.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So and then I also want to talk to you because I know we talked offline about you having to go to Tijuana. How was that experience?
Oh, that was crazy. That was when I moved from commercial radio. Right? I mean, when I moved from college radio, I finally finagled myself on commercial radio. And when I finally got on commercial radio, most of the antennas were in Tijuana, and I couldn't do hip hop. They were like, "Oh, we need you to lose your New York accent." So I would literally have one of the jocks on the board with me to work with me, showing me how to ride to the post and work the board, because I had to have, at that time you had to have somebody help you work the board, but I was already familiar with the board. So that was cool. I just went through the motions. And then we were still, I was still going to Tijuana when they sold the radio station. And then they were building a radio station, so I was still going on. And that's when I got the rap show. There was one other person that did a rap show on commercial radio before me. But then when I did it, it was on point because I played everything showbiz. Yeah, I did my thing. And then they were building the radio station, and then the guy that the program director was like, look, the station is ready tonight. You doing the rap show tonight. And coincidentally, I had been with Nice and Smooth and Pop the whole day when I got the call. So I had already knew that I was going on the radio at that time. But I, as a jock, as an air personality, you had to do promotions back in the day. They don't do it as much now. They just do commercials where they're talking about the lawyers and everybody go here and go to this party and that party. But back in the day, we used to go to the club and call on the phone and say, hey, yo, it's Craig Fraizer. I'm at the Stratus nightclub and just come on down. There's free drinks. Da, 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 da. And this particular night with Greg and Parker was the big booty contest. So I was like, hey, come on down. We on that. I got Nice and Smooth and I got Pop down. He was going to do the big booty contest. So the first day I did my show after I got off, we went to the club. So that was a great experience, but it wasn't too long after that until they sold the station. And that's when I moved to work with John. And there's a guy that was a good friend of mine from San Diego named DJ Jam that moved to LA at the same time I did. Now DJ Jam was Snoop and Dre's DJ.
Okay.
Yeah, so we moved at the same time. And so Jam was on the Beat at that time. It was the Beat. That was one of the black radio stations in LA. And
was that 92.5?
92.5 was in San Diego. I think there may be a 92.5 in LA now, but it was 92.3 the Beat.
92.3. Okay.
Beat. It was
the Beat 92. It was like kind of like 92.3 the Beat. Like it was kind of up.
Right. Okay. And then on the weekend they would have specialty shows, like different formats and stuff like that. So Jam would come on and mix, like say like Clue or Drama or somebody they come on the radio and they mix like from the rush hour and stuff like that. So Jam was doing this, and then it was a special. They were having more specialties. So Jam was like, "Look, you did radio. Come and try to put together format a show, because I'm on Fridays mixing for an hour." So, and I never forget, he was living in Alger. Remember Al Jarreau, the jazz singer?
I remember Al Jarreau.
He was living in his garage. So, and it was still real tapes. So I would come over and he would mix and I would talk. And he said, we got to format it because back then, like 23 and 53, 7 minutes of commercials, right? So, I knew that from programming in San Diego. So we would do that, and then the commercials would come on, and we took the reel, and they said, okay, you on. So it would be Mike Nardone, King M's, Sway and Tech, right? Sway.
Shout out to Sway.
And then Radio Chat. That's when we had the show Radio Chat. And our format was hip-hop, R&B, and old school. For the specialty show.
All the stuff I like.
But that's not, I can't front on that because it was already going, I kind of bid it from New York because Red Alert would be doing old school at 12 noon in New York. And Mr. Magic would be doing old school. I just put the R&B in it, the hip hop, R&B, and the old school. So I can't trademark that. But it was an idea that I took from New York and brought it to LA, and we did it. And then 3 years later, hip hop and R&B.
Shit!
Hip hop.
Wow.
Yo,
hip hop and R&B. So that's how that came about. Hip hop.
I don't know. I can't say that. I can't say that, but I know that's what happened, and I know because I had struggles, I had obstacles, but I was exposed. You know, when Dave came for the source, he's like, "Oh, I'll take straight from the lip. You'll be the West Coast manager." And I was like, "Nah, I'll do my own shit. Fuck that." You know what I'm saying? Right? Nobody knew the source was going to be like that.
Right.
And then finally, I said, "I'm broke. I can't pay rent." And then here come Easy, and then Easy brings Bone to the house, and Bone is in the living room going Bone, right?
So you met Bone. So you met Bone Thugs before they was Bone Thugs.
Before they blew up, because Easy always brought advertisements in my magazine. He loved the magazine, and he used to have blood. So it used to be. In LA, there used to be a small clique of underground rappers. Not just the Far Side and stuff like that. That whole movement was like different. Everybody had a group back then.
Right.
And then Easy had these kids called the Blood of Abraham, right? They were some white boys. Then Be Real had the Hooligans, right? So the Hooligans was The Alchemist. You heard of The Alchemist, right?
Yeah.
The Alchemist and what was the other guy? I can't remember. But the other guy was James Caan's son, the guy that's on Hawaii 5-0.
Oh shit! I didn't talk about. He played in Ocean's 11.
Yeah. Scott Caan and The Alchemist was in a rap group back in the day.
So Alchemist. So hold up. You talking about the producer Alchemist?
Yeah. He's the rap. Yeah, he's the rap.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. They're called the Hooligans. Look at them now. They're on the Hooligans, and Be Real was their manager. So you know, we had all these different cliques, and then Easy found Bone, and he brought him. He's like, "Look, I want to take your magazine. I want to blow it up." And I'm sitting there broke, and I'm like, "Get the paperwork." And then what happened?
He passed away.
Wow.
Man.
So your first impression of them, it was something different. You knew that they were gonna blow.
I mean, Easy was like, "Yo, can I get the cover?" And the first thing I was like, "Nah, you can't tell me how to get the cover." Later, I would understand that's the way the game goes.
Yeah.
You understand? So I learned by experience, and then I said, "All right." So then, when Greg was with Pac, and Pac was ready to start a label, and I was gonna come in with it, I was like, "Y'all ready to pack my stuff? Let's go. Let's do it."
Yeah.
Pac.
Let's talk about that though. Let's talk about when, and I know we getting ready to wrap up, but like I wanted to touch on it. You know, the whole, we started off talking about the East Coast, West Coast stuff, but Pac was in motions of making this album called One Nation, where he was going to bring Southern artists like Scarface and Goody Mob, and he was going to bring some Brooklyn. I can't remember what's the Brooklyn group. They was on Mad Papa. No, they was on Mad Papa show. I can't remember their name right now.
Boot Camp Clip.
Yeah, he was going to work with them. Greg Nice, he was bringing them from New York. Like, he was making this whole album called One Nation, where he was going to kill all that East Coast, West Coast, and show you that I'm working with artists that he respect.
What he was doing? What you call East? Death Row East.
Yeah, Death Row East. Yeah, it was gonna come out on there.
I wasn't privy to that. I know that they were making music. I know G has some Pac songs, and I know I could say that because I'm not playing the song, so you're not gonna hear it. I know there was a whole crew, both from like with the Outlaws, and the Outlaws made a song with Smooth recently. So it was a relationship there, and I don't know the politics behind it.
Yeah,
I don't. I know people that know Suge. Jam knew Dre. I met Dre. I met Snoop. I was with Warren a lot because I knew him from New Deal. So I heard things about, yo, don't do that. Nate, don't do that. Snoop, what? And those are things that stay behind closed doors because I don't know what the other people have to say. Like I said, I'm always the journalist. You know what I'm saying? But those things were never important to me.
Right.
I'm on the guest list tonight. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
You think we can, you think Radio Check could get on this song? You think we could do the Biggie thing? We were all about trying to make moves. And we kept things like that arm's distance. It didn't become popular till like the 2000s with TMZ and social media that everybody wanted to be privy to all the gossip. You know what I'm saying?
And see here on Pitt Stop, like the stuff I just talked about, the stuff I heard from the horse's mouth himself, which is Greg Nice. He was talking about all the people that Pac was working with and his whole reasoning for being with Pac during his last days. They were gearing up to put out the One Nation album. That was really Pac's next album, not Machiavelli. It was One Nation, and that's what he was saying. Like, and I just thought like
Greg and Pac was close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Pac had a relationship with a lot of East Coast artists, but Pac was different around Greg. I was around Pac, like Black Watch Television. They was commissioned by Death Row to film everything. So we went to Club 662 for the first fight.
I remember that.
And then I left. I was telling you that. So we were there with Pac and Danny Boy and Corrupt. And I knew
Danny Boy.
San Diego.
Yeah, Corrupt.
So
it
was, we were there. We were there, and then it was like I was always around the artists because the people I networked with were all in the industry. So we all went to Jamaica House and the different clubs. Every night we were at a different club, politicking. You know what I'm saying? So I mean that was what was going on, and I think, shoot, I can't imagine what level is going on now.
Oh man, but one thing is cool that you looking back at it now. You look
everything.
How do you feel like being like you like a fly on the wall in all these crazy situations?
Part of history, man.
Part of history, man. How do you feel looking back at it though?
I feel like I was exposed to a lot, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I learned by experience. I tripped into hip hop. I went out to go to school and began to DJ, and then I had to leave school behind, and that became how I tried to make money, and then I wasn't making money, and then I came back, and now I'm back in school. So, I had a good time. It was a really life learning experience for me, and I forged a lot of friendships, and I did a lot of things. I mean, I published a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Even though you'll ask somebody, do you know Craig Fraizer? They'd be like, who? You know what I'm saying? But when you talk to me, you'll feel it. And then, and then there'll be another time when I'll have a last dance. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no, for sure.
I'll have a last dance. And then you'll be like, we had on the show.
It's starting now.
Your answer to money.
Go ahead, Ken.
No, and now I'll let you go. Your answer to Moneybag's question is your next step in this game, and that's the documentary. We got it. Very interesting. You've been a fly on the wall and during the golden years of hip hop. My generation, I know I'll be 41 in 2 weeks. My generation, we want to hear these stories because like this is what we grew up on. So you definitely a hip hop fresh air, man. You bring history, and you have an audience that want to hear it.
When you ready to do a documentary, I got a lot of ideas. Holler at your boy.
We didn't get to really, and like I said, we can definitely bring you back, but we didn't get to
for sure.
Your editorial pieces and your journalism pieces and just some of your interviews that you've done. So one thing I want to ask you, interviews, how does that feel like to interview some of the best rappers in hip hop? And then also on the top of that, what was some of your favorite interviews, and what was your favorite interview? And then what was one of the interviews you didn't think it was going to be as great as it was, and then it was just like blew you out the water?
So I pulled out the magazines to try to read that so I could get with you because I've done so many interviews. Trust me.
Right.
And then I thought about putting together chronological favorite groups because I remember before we got off, you were like, we're gonna ask you who you like the best. But I will tell you a story, like a freestyle. Like when you first asked me, I remember I called KRS-One, right?
I was gonna ask you a KRS question. Thank you. Bring it up. Thank you.
I called KRS-One. Now, I got Chuck D's story too, because he, coming up, everybody loved Chuck. So I got Chuck D's story because I interacted with Chuck after the interview and had never met him. I spoke to him on the phone, and one time he's in San Diego, I ran to they were performing with U2, and they got me backstage passes, and I ran down the and they were like, "Oh, Chuck, they running behind. He can't talk to you, Craig." And then I saw the other guy that was on the radio there, and he was talking to Chuck. So as Chuck was walking away, I was like, "Yo, tell Chuck Craig Fraizer came." And Chuck turned around. He's like, "Newest, latest, freshest, greatest in hip hop music." And that was dope. That was my dopest interview that didn't happen till later, right?
Oh,
wow. I called KRS, and at this time he was living in Jersey. It wasn't heyday. KRS, he's a legend now.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to him, I'm kicking it to him, talking for like 45 minutes, and then he's like, "Yeah, all right, brother, thank you very, very much." Shout out to Jeffrey Sledge. He's my man from Jive. And then I hung up, and the tape recorder wasn't on.
Bruh.
And this is the first time I'm a cursing interview. I was like, "Fuck it." I called him back. He said, "Yo," I said, "KRS, my tape recorder wasn't on." And there was a pause. I'm waiting for the clip. And he was like, "I got you."
Oh, that's love. Hey, that's love.
I couldn't get the whole hour again, but I made sure I knew he was gonna be like, "Yo, that's it." But I got the questions that I thought it was dope.
Yeah.
And then he finally said, "All right, man, and I thought that was like
real.
And I tell you another story. I was trying to get my mojo back, right? Okay. And I was speaking to a certain artist. I'm not gonna say his name because I may have to interact with him later. And I called my man, shout out to Cindy Margerson, Atlantic Records. We go back to Brandy, right? And I asked to get this interview because I was ready to start writing again. And he said, "All right, I'll get you this interview." And I'm talking to the artist, and then I'm like, we chopping it up, and I was like, "Well, who's on your album?" And then he was like, "Cool and Dre." And I was like, "Well, tell me about Cool and Dre." And he was like, "You don't know who Cool and Dre is?" And I was like, "Nah, enlighten me, tell me what's going on." He said, "Click."
Oh shit! Yo,
wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't. It's driving me now.
I think I know. I think I know who it is.
I got a feeling who it is too.
Me too.
And we can talk offline.
I got two people about that. I got two people I think about.
So I'm thinking like, how have we evolved where like we used to go everywhere and be on the underground and want to enlighten people to the point where,
yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, man.
And you're not even on that. You don't have no history. You don't have no hit. And I could have barked back, but I wasn't in that position. And it's not what the type of content and the materials and the way the swag and the style I want to do right now. We just gonna wait, and I'm gonna see that person again. And I'm gonna remind them about it.
So if it's anybody that you haven't interviewed that you wish you could have interviewed, and you're still doing your thing in your tenure, who would it be and why?
I wasn't ready for that question.
Hey,
I thought of that question. Who haven't I interviewed? I interviewed Jay. I never interviewed Kanye.
You interviewed Jay?
Yeah, I interviewed Jay when they was on Broadway, when they first started on Rockefeller. Hell yeah. Yeah, when I did Straight from the Lip, I did Source, I did Rap Sheet, I did everybody.
I remember Rap Sheet. I remember Rap
Sheet. I did. So when they did press days, so at the Pop Museum, they sent me a picture. They was like, "Yo, this is his press itinerary," and it was like Craig Fraizer, Straight from the Lip, on there. I was like, "Yo, yo." So I mean, writers are unsung heroes, and only few of them really blow. But that's okay because I always use it. I always use me having fun as a coping mechanism. To like, I'm not running around like the old rappers saying that I should be paid. You know what I'm saying? Because I had that opportunity.
Right.
You know, and there's time for a last dance. I truly believe that. Because every opportunity I had was like a phone call away. And you know what I'm saying? So who would I like to interview? That's a good one. I'm gonna hold on to that.
Okay, cool. You can hold on to it. I can hold on to it.
But let me tell you my favorite artist right now. I like, I'm from the Bronx. So right now I'm listening to A Boogie.
Right? Okay, A Boogie. Hey, A Boogie with the hoodie. A Boogie with the hoodie.
You know who else that I like that I'm just finding out about is that kid Cash Cobain. That boy is.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The attitude. And so I like and then when it comes hard, when it comes on some B-boy shit or some new guy shit right now, I like those kids from Buffalo. Word.
I know you gonna say. Hey, that boy Benny New Butcher. That dude's something different, man.
I ain't gonna lie, my favorite.
They on some new stuff right now. I gotta like them.
Hey,
Chris, I don't care what they talk about. I just gotta like them.
I like Benny.
Shout out to them.
Benny, my favorite, but my most
West
favorite.
Side?
Nah. Tell them who my favorite is, man.
Stone God.
Stone God.
I knew I was gonna ask you if you knew about the Griselda clique, the Griselda crew. You said
I haven't met him yet, but I will. And I think I wasn't really a Little Durk fan at first.
Wow.
But when he did that joint with J. Cole, and I always like J. Cole because he has content. I don't know if you would say he's commercial, but I like what he talks about. Even Big Sean. You know what they talk about, and Kendrick. I think the conscious rap is coming back, guys.
Yeah.
You know, so that might be hot, and that's something we got to talk about.
Yeah, you call the artists that I rock with, man. Like I'm a big Durk fan, man.
Tell Chill I had some Greg Knight stories for him, and he's gonna miss them all. Because I
was we're gonna have you back, but as we close out, and I'm gonna let E close us out, but give us one Greg Knight story.
Just for you, Chill.
Give us one Greg Knight story. One Greg Knight.
I got hundreds of Greg Knight stories. But the one that I was thinking about today that was really, really the coolest because I missed Soul Train because I was sick. But I didn't miss In Living Color.
Oh.
And I did miss In Living Color, and they taped 2 shows that night. So I was in the trailer with Greg Knight and Leaders of the New School. And they did In Living Color. And we hung out with Rosie Perez and Jennifer Lopez at the end at the party.
Yo.
So I don't think Jennifer was there. I think Rosie was with us. But the Leaders was like the hottest. Greg and the Leaders were like some of the hottest.
Yeah, they was hot.
Man,
so Rosie we met everybody, and that came to mind because I was thinking about it earlier. Because I have Greg Knight stories from when he was 15. I have Greg Knight stories when he came out and he was like, he still had demos without Smooth. And he was like, yo, you gotta listen to this. He said, I know you're in San Diego, but you gotta listen to this. You gotta listen to this. Here I am. R.A.W.
Hey man, Greg Knight had a distinctive voice too.
Yeah, man. That's him and Chill, great friends, man. Nice and Smooth, they all great friends, man. So
yeah.
I love them dudes, man. Hey, but before we get up out of here, man, so we have a thing called a victory lap, Greg. And so the victory lap, you know, we at the end of the pod. We had a good pod.
So hold on, I'm sorry, E. Before you get to the victory lap.
You can't keep doing this shit.
Nah, listen.
Nah, almost got the N word and everything on here, man. God,
I definitely want to do this. We gotta shout out, bro. We gotta shout our brother out. You know what I'm saying? Because people may not understand why we do this and what the victory lap is for and everything like that. So, I just want to let you know, Craig, how we came up with this concept of the Pitt Stop Podcast. We have a guy that was our good friend, Ronald J.R. Pittman, Big Pitt, and that's how we came up with the Pitt Stop Podcast. So that's why we do this victory lap. So you can take it away from there. I just want to make sure. But fuck you, Kenny, and everything that you stand for, because you thought I was going somewhere else with it, but I was trying to give some shout outs and you cursing this shit. So fuck you.
Hey, look, y'all got a nice vibe. And then I saw one podcast. Somebody said somebody's government. Y'all was like, y'all don't say my government. I think that's where it comes from, man. Just having fun.
Oh no, for sure.
You guys are gonna build on the show, and it's gonna get more popular.
Oh no, for sure. Hey, look, if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
And don't hold that thought, because that's what I thought too, and I'm broke as a mother. Keep the business, baby. Keep it business.
No. We got him for it. Nah, he's a business guy. If we gotta have somebody, everybody plays a role, Greg. You know what I'm saying? Everybody plays a role. So we got a business guy. We got the mouthpiece up there, my man Rosie McCray, because I don't know, he got to get the tab. I don't know how he do it. I don't know what he be doing.
Yeah.
Right. I seen him in some rooms. I don't know how he got there.
He worked the rooms, man.
Right.
He's the most famous, non-famous dude I know.
I swear.
Except for me.
Right. Y'all can run together, yo.
Yeah, man.
Nah, for sure. But as I was saying before, the victory lap. And we dedicate to our man, Big Pitt, man. So look, the victory lap, man, you know, where we have our guests just drop a gem before we go, man. It could be anything inspirational. Just to enlighten people on their journey on this thing we call life.
I feel like you got to plan your work your plan, right? I feel like you got to keep your eye on the prize, man. And I feel like it's about selflessness instead of selfishness, especially when you're interacting with your brotherhood, you know? And I think each one teach one. And I want you guys to always remember, it's about fun, but you also have to consider the variables and factors that go into your craft. And look at it and don't be afraid to think outside the box.
That part.
You got to hit me with some really good questions. I'm gonna be ready for you.
Hey, the name of this motherfucking joint is Think Outside the Box.
Yeah.
Yeah, the name of it.
Name of the box.
McCray feeling every bit of his liquor.
Yeah, it's not him now. That glass getting empty.
That's not what it is. The name of this episode, Think Outside the Box, though.
There you go.
All right.
Hey, Craig, we appreciate you, man. We love you. I appreciate you, man.
Y'all like to talk to your brothers again, man.
We want you back for real, for sure.
Nah, for sure. Hey, just like that, it's the Pissed Out Podcast.